All right, so I'm trying to make a video for you guys, and this is the third time that I am recording it. And if it doesn't work, I am going to be insane. All right, chapter 10. You guys are going to notice that I put up a video for you to watch from Inside Out and to answer a question from that one. And I love using Inside Out with talking about emotions and self-regulation. I use it in my kindergarten classroom. It's just an easy way to see and kind of associate emotions with how we are perceived by the world, I guess. I don't know. All right, so emotions. We're talking about basic emotions, and these typically develop like right around 6 months. Happy, angry, like the ones that are actually in the show. And then right around 18 to 24 months, then we start to get more complex emotions like shame, fear, guilt, jealousy, greed, like that type of stuff. And yes, little kids do have those things. When we're able to recognize other people's emotions, that's going to be something that is called social referencing. And so like if I'm in an environment that's somewhat new, like maybe I'm going to play soccer on a team for the first time, and I'm going to be looking around to see what the other kids are doing so that I can kind of decide how I'm going to respond to the coach, to the other players, to the new rules, all that type of thing. Social referencing is something that we do from being like 1 year old all the way through our life. If you think about going on a airplane and there's some turbulence, or the captain says, please put on your seatbelts, and you're like, what's going on? Who do we look at? We look at the flight attendants and see what's going on. And if they are calm, then we're going to be calm. That's social referencing. When Sammy falls down and gets hurt, he looks at me to see like, am I okay? Am I good? And I'm like, yeah, you're good. We're good. So just kind of checking in on other people's emotions and how they are perceiving a situation helps us to understand the situation and go from there. Then there's another thing kind of talking about like culture and, like, and I hate this, but it's like, the whole like man up thing, or boys don't cry, that type of stuff, which is so wrong. And we're really trying to, re-educate people, because those are very harmful, and a lot of it is cultural. But that's what leads into like depression, anxiety, suicidal thoughts, things like that. And then it talks about like regulating your emotions, which I love. Mindfulness. I've had to do a lot of that just with this whole quarantine. It's been pretty crazy. Breathing, taking that time to just like stop, pause, think, okay, am I safe? Am I not safe? What's happening? And school-aged kids and adolescents are much better at doing that than preschoolers and babies, of course. Because you've had more experiences and you're able to think, okay, is this a big deal or a little deal? And sometimes you aren't able to self-regulate as well because it feels so big. So it's like, okay, what's the big picture here? And I've had my therapist help me kind of bring me back down and talk through things. So, I think it's an important aspect of life to have people to kind of check in on your emotions, because sometimes what we're thinking can get a little bit fuzzy. So having a really best friend, having a trusted adult, different things like that, parents, can just to kind of bounce things off of and help you see that, okay, I'm going to get through this. This is going to be okay. All right, moving on, talking about temperament. Temperament plays a part in your life because it all leads to each other. Like Maddie was a pretty cool, calm, collected baby, and as she's gotten older, she's much more independent. She kind of self-isolates, keep things to herself, but then she does, talk to her friends. Jack was more needy, wanted approval all the time, and as an adolescent, he is very much into his hair and his clothes and, wanting approval. Anyways. Yeah, so it just kind of talks about attachment with babies and all later in the chapter. I'm not really going to focus on that. Chapter 11. Chapter 11 is super fun because it is your self-concept and talking about your self-esteem. So in preschoolers, it's their possessions, like, that's mine, this is mine, these are all of my cars, these are all of my this, and you know that possessions is a big deal. They also have those physical characteristics, their preferences, competencies, those things play a part into their self-concept or self-esteem. School-aged kids, it's going to be more emotional and their social groups, and they're going to compare themselves with their peers. And then adolescents, that's you guys, it's going to be more about attitudes, personality traits. Beliefs vary with the setting, and future-oriented. And I used to always think like, well, my personality definitely changes with where I'm at, but that's somewhat normal. So trying to stay true to who I am in all the situations, that's been something that I've been working on my whole adult life. All right, so the search for your identity. This starts with little ones when they are school-aged and moving into that adolescent side. Definitely, like, you guys are right at the epitome of all of your, like, figuring out who you are. That's why I think everyone always goes back to their high school years, because it's kind of like your, like, infant personality years, in my opinion. And so you are looking at other people, trying to decide where you fit in, what you like, what you don't like, what are your dreams and what you value. And so the self-absorption side, that is going to be the adolescent egocentrism, and that's when it's like all about you, evolves all around you. I think 13 is the worst. And then the next part, which is why I think that we as teachers and adults do like the scare tactics with you guys, like convocations with like drunk driving or drugs and different things like that, is because of the illusion of invulnerability. And that is where you guys think like, oh, bad things won't happen to me, it's going to happen to somebody else. And that's pretty common. That's just a common coping for most people anyways. Like, we always think, oh, that's so bad, it happened on the news, that's not going to happen to me. But bad things are going to happen to you. And so you know, trying to stay safe, making those wise choices, not putting yourself in situations that could be harmful, different things like that. Moving on, because there's like so much. It does talk about depression and anxiety. And depression is really big because 5 to 15% of adolescents are depressed. Adolescent girls are more affected than boys, simply because of like development, social changes, the society, what they put on girls and how we're supposed to look and act and behave, and all of those pressures. Heredity plays a role. My mom and dad both suffered from depression. I have depression. And different environments can add to that. Self-esteem changes. I mean, just like I said, 4 and 5-year-olds it's usually when we start to measure self-esteem. And so 4 and 5-year-olds in elementary school kiddos, they are looking at 4 areas for their self-esteem. School, like their scholastic competence, their athletic ability, social competence, and their physical appearance. And that's like pretty standard for everybody. And if any of those things are lacking, or if you have the perception that you're lacking in any of those areas, then you're more likely to experience a lower self-esteem, and lower self-esteem can lead to anxiety and depression, and yeah. Moving on. Yeah, if you have poor self-esteem, then you're going to be more prone to like bullying. A lot of people who have sad hearts, they're bullies. You're going to be more prone to depression, aggressive behavior, criminal activity, and do poorly in school. So really like trying to build up your self-esteem and like do those affirmations like, okay, I can do this. I've got this kind of self-talk is important for you and for others. Then just kind of understanding what others think. We get a more sophisticated understanding as we grow through childhood and adolescence, just simply because you have more experience and you've been through more stuff. Prejudice, this is interesting because it says that preferring one's group over others is observed in 2 to 4-year-olds. It gets stronger in 5 to 7-year-olds. Negative views of other groups form slowly. So usually being at home, you know, how whatever your parents' perceptions of things are, sometimes that trickles down to you, or most often it does. My mother grew up in Gary, and I remember hearing her talk about people of color. You know, and it was not at all what I believe, and obviously it's not what she believes either, but that was the norm for them back in the 60s. And so just like, you know, she knew that it was wrong, and she, you know, her parents were very prejudiced. And so she was on purpose trying to kind of break that as she raised my sister and I. And likewise, you know, I'm trying to break that for my children so that they are more accepting and loving and kind. And that just goes for all groups. Moving on, just eliminating prejudice, education, getting to know other people, traveling. Those are great things to do that. All right, those are the 2 chapters in a nutshell. If you guys could please post what your thoughts are in reference to the Inside Out video, that would be awesome. I miss you.